Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to cover a class which I didn't really cover a lot in my channel, which is the Dragonhunter. The Dragonhunter is rarely seen nowadays because the Berserker and the Vindicator are just overpowered, but I think the Dragonhunter is a very strong ranged and both melee option because it has a lot of range damage with the with the longbow and also the scepter. Especially the longbow skill 5 is very strong. And also in melee you have Procession of Blade and Taste of Fate, which are very strong traps which do a lot of damage, and you will see most of the time as your top skills on your arc DPS. So let's get into the build. We run Radiance, Zeal and Dragonhunter. On Radiance we have right hand strength, which gives us additional precision and also some more power while we wield a one-handed weapon, which is the scepter in this case. Then we have Retribution. Strike damage dealt is increased while you have Resolution. Resolution is this boon right here. When you have it, you deal 10% more damage, and this is a very common boon. Most classes give it to you, especially the Firebrand, so you are supposed to have a Firebrand anyways, and this should give you Resolution passively while doing his job. Then we have here this minor trait, Radiant Power. Attacks against burning foes have an increase in critical chance, and I don't count this critical chance to the critical cap in the gears. And also we have 150 ferocity when we have like ferocity increase whenever, all the time. Then we have Righteous Instincts. Resolution increases your chances to critically strike and grant might each interval. So the most important part of this is the critical chance increase by 25% whenever we have Resolution, which makes us get more power and ferocity in the gears, sacrificing some precision. We don't need a lot of precision because we have this trait right here. Then in Zeal we have Zealous Scepter. Gain might when your virtue skill 1 passive effect triggers, and it will trigger a lot. It will also gain more might while wielding a scepter, so if your F1 trigger effect, which is every 5 attacks, trigger, if you have scepter you get 2 stacks of might. If you have any other weapon you get 1. For 4 seconds it's not bad because you are in a fight with many symbols around, the traps, the Sword of Justice and so on. And so your F1 will trigger a lot and you will get a lot of might, even if the duration is low. I also liked this trait right here, Wrathful Spirit, but I checked it and it gives you Resolution and Fury, which are very needed boons, only when you consume your Aegis. Like if an ally Firebrand gives you Aegis and the Aegis is consumed, you will not get the boons even if you run this trait. So it's only for the Aegis you apply to yourself and to your allies. So it's not worth it because you have only one Aegis and it's on the Shield of Courage, your F3. So just run Zealous Scepter. Here we have some additional power and also it boosts some Greysword, but we don't run Greysword, but just the power is enough because the other 2 traits are kinda useless. Here we have a huge minor trait, Symbols deal increased strike damage 30%. This is especially strong for our skill 2 from the scepter, which is the symbol of punishment. Then Symbolic Avenger, your strike damage is increased whenever your symbol hits a foe to a maximum of 5 stacks, so 10% free damage. You will have this all the time because your skill 2 will be on the ground all the time. On Dragonhunter we have Soaring Devastation, Wings of Resolve, which is our F2, which is this leap. Delivers an attack upon landing. Movement speed is increased when Wings of Resolve is not on cooldown. So you use your F2 and when you land on the enemies, you will also apply 3 seconds of Immobilize, which is huge in my opinion, and also deal some damage. It's around 2-3k on DPS classes. Then we have Zealot Aggression, deal increased strike damage to crippled foes, 10%, and also our passive F1 will trigger cripple. So the passive F1 will give us might and also apply cripple and also burning. Then here we have deal bonus strike damage based on your distance to the enemy, so it's a flat 5% increase if you are full melee, and if you are at maximum range it's 15% increase, and it's very strong, especially for your longbow skill 5, which is 1200 range from the middle, from the center, and also an additional 360 radius, and you half it by 2, so you are like 1380 maximum range. And then we have heavy light, gain stability when disabling a foe, deal increased strike damage to disabled or defiant foes. So we don't disable foes a lot, but still we get some additional stability, and also the 15% damage increase to disabled foes applies to enemies which are disabled by our allies, not only by ourselves. We disable our enemies with our F1 if we pull them, then we have our skill 3, which is a knockback, and also we have our skill 5, which makes the cages around the enemies, and if they walk while using skill and they don't have stability, they get interrupted, and so this will trigger. As for the gears, we run everything is Marauder except the chest is Dragon for the more ferocity, then every trinket is dragons except the amulet and the backpack. You should aim 55 critical chance, because with resolution you get 25% more, and also fury 20% more. So here I don't reach 55 completely, because I always count in my builds to have the minor bloodlust from the Borderlands, like when you cap your ruins, which almost all the time you get it, so it's 30 precision and you would get to 55%. As the rune, we run Scholar, Superior Sigil of Force on the Scepter, Bloodlust on the Focus to stack some more power. Then on the Longbow we run Frenzy and Force for damage and also cooldown reduction on our traps and on every skill we have. As the relics, I mostly used Relic of Speed because it's very needed. It's one of the most strongest relics in the game because it gives you 60% movement speed while you have swiftness. It's like not always like super speed, but it's very close to super speed almost all the time when you have swiftness. I also tried the Dragonhunter relic, which is 10% more damage to enemies which are affected by our traps, and also Fireworks relics works great, 10% more damage when we hit enemies with a skill which has 20% 20 or more seconds cooldown, which is our skill 5, our skill 3 on the scepter, and our skill 4 on the focus, and also our skill 5 on the focus. But still, those are greedy options in my opinion, and the safest option and strongest option, so you will not stay around behind the commander, you will not lose your commander, you can run away with this relic right here, which makes you survive the most out of all the relics. Let's have a look at our skills. The skill 1 on the longbow is a projectile which also pierces. It deals decent damage, but still it's a projectile, so in War vs World it will be hard to hit this. The skill 2 is another projectile and it pierces too. It deals huge damage and it has a channel time which requires you to stay in place. If you move during the cast, it will not shoot, so keep in mind this. It's a very powerful skill which should be used on downed enemies, or if you are sure there are no reflects from the enemy blobs, or even in the enemy, like there's sometimes some enemies are scattered away from the enemy blobs, so they are alone, they don't have reflects, and you press your skill 2 onto them. Let's see it. Big damage. Sometimes you see like 12k on this when you use it on the enemy DPS. The skill 3, Deflecting Shot, is another piercing projectile, but this time this is unblockable, so even if there are the reflects from the enemies, you can hit this. It deals 0 damage as every CC in this game, but still it's a decent knockback, which pierces and is unblockable. So you will knock back your enemies and you get stability from it if you interrupt them, and also every damage from you while they are disabled will deal 15% more damage. The skill 4 is another projectile, which sucks, but still it applies a field on the ground, a symbol. And the problem with this skill is that it has that small projectile in the cast. So you cast it, if there is a reflect, it will reflect. If there is a warrior bubble, it will not pop the symbol on the ground. So try to always cast it before the fight starts, like the enemies are coming to you. You don't use it on the enemies, but you use maybe on the ground below yourself, and you're double dodging the enemy, and they double dodge into you, and they are on the projectile. Your skill 5 is another huge skill, like the best skill on the longbow, and maybe almost the reason why Dragonhunter is played. So you cast this skill, which has a short channel time, and you see, you don't have to wait until all the arrows fall, you just have to wait for the shoot to go on the air, and then the arrows will keep dropping even if you move. The initial damages are kinda low, but the final impact damage is a huge damage, like huge burst. Sometimes you are oftentimes top DPS skill on the Hunter's Ward on your arc DPS, so it's very huge. And also on the last impact it will create on 5 enemies, some barriers around them, and if they move they will be CC'd. So if they have stability, they will get a stack of stability removed, and if they don't have it, they will be knocked back. And also if they are using a skill, they will be interrupted, and you will also of course trigger this trait. So let's see again, huge damage at the end, and you will make these cages, and this is it. On the scepter we have the auto attack, which is a fast projectile, lower range compared to longbow. We will not use this skill a lot, almost never, I will say. The best skill on this weapon set right here is your skill 2, which casts a symbol on the ground. This is not a projectile, so this is why it is so strong, and it is worth running. It's a decent damage dealer. Many times it will be on your top 4, top 5 of your skills, sometimes even top 3 as damage dealer. And it is so good because, as you see, you just choose the AoE and it will cast it there without using any projectile. So this is kinda unblockable or whatever. It's not unblockable, but still it's not like the skill 4 from the longbow, which is a projectile. Then on our skill 3, on the scepter, we have a single target immobilize. It's decent to immobilize some targets which are like you have nothing left, you choose to immobilize someone, and hopefully they don't get a cleanse, so 2 seconds of immobilize will make them dead in a blob fight. Your skill 4 is another single target skill, which deals very big damage, but it is kinda slow to apply it, so use it on downies or people like randomly, most of the time randomly, because you have nothing left, you press this skill. Your most priority is the skill 2. The skill 5 will apply 3 blocks on you, and if these 3 blocks are not used, after some seconds it will explode and you will do damage on the enemies. The damage is very big, but 3 blocks in a blob fight is very low, so you probably will never do damage with this, but still it will increase your survivability. And also this is a combo finisher blast, like if you have to stack might or to blast a sneak gyro or whatever, a smoke field for the stealth, you can use this. As for the healing skill, utility skill and the elite skill, we run shelter for healing skill, and this will be a channeled block which also heals you at the end, of course. It's a strong panic button, but it will not make you invulnerable because you can still be CC'd or damaged by unblockable stuff. Then we have the Procession of Blade as our first trap. You cast it, it has a small cast time, and it will trigger this trap right here when enemies walk on it, and it will do a lot of damage. Then we have the Test of Fate. This can be cast immediately, like even while you are stunned, while you are dodging, and so on. It has no cast time. This will deal an initial very small damage, but the huge damage is done when the enemies cross the trap. So I will show you now in a second. I drop it, small damage, then I pull someone, you see it crossed it, like 4k I did of damage. And so this cross damage is limited to 10 targets. So if it hits 10 targets, the trap will disappear and will stop doing damage. And also this is unblockable. It can be evaded, like if the enemy is inside the trap right here, like I'm an enemy, you can dodge out and you will see evade and will not get damage. But still, even if you have Haggis or any block, whatever you want, it's unblockable. So very strong, remember it and try to place it as best. As the last utility skill, we run the Sword of Justice, which is needed to do some more damage, to cleave the downies or to kill like sieges on the walls and so on. You can also run in choke points, in my opinion, the Wall of Reflection, which is very strong to reflect every damage from the enemies except the unblockable ones. Let's say you have your enemies in front right here, and then you cast the Wall of Reflection, which is here. They cast all the damage here and you will reflect it and you will do a lot of damage. You will see your arc DPS going up like crazy. Use Wall of Reflection instead of Sword of Justice. The traps are essential for this build. As the elite skill, we use Renewed Focus, which makes us invulnerable for 3 seconds, and also will reset our F1, F2 and F3, which I will cover in a second. Our F1 will throw a spear to the enemy, very long spear, very long range, and also it's unblockable, and then you can pull the enemies. After you cast your F1 on the enemy, you will get the F1 to pull the enemies, and these two F1 have different cooldowns. So your F1 normally has 20-second cooldown, and the pull has 40 seconds cooldown. Then we have the F2, which is a leap, which goes in front, will remove immobilize and 2 other conditions, and also will gives us some health, some healing at the end to us and our allies. And also with the trait it will apply immobilize for 3 seconds, and this is especially good to rush into the enemies. You use your F2 into them, you immobilize them, then you cast your traps, and so they are immobilized inside them. And then they will try to escape, and there is Test of Fate which will hit them. Our F3 is another strong panic button, very similar to Shelter. It gives us a lot of blocks, like infinite blocks in front of us for 3 seconds. It's not the best panic button because this is like blocks, so unblockable stuff will go beyond this. So you have this cone in front of you which blocks every attack except the unblockable ones, of course. If you turn around you can get hit because the cone is only in front of you. So the best panic button is Renewed Focus. Use it to survive more than using it to reset your F1, F2 and F3. This is to survive. You are dying inside the enemy blob, you immediately press this and you become invulnerable and you can reposition yourself, and also you will have F2 again and F3 again. Now I want to give some commentary on a clip I made in a real fight in which I can unleash my burst properly, and this doesn't happen all the time, of course. This was an ideal situation, and so let's get into it. Here we rush into the enemies. I use a dodge now to engage into them. Like, I actually don't dodge, but still I move to the side to drop my traps and immediately go back to my zerg, to the ally zerg. Then I cast some Sword of Justice because there is some downies here, and cast my skill 2 from the scepter, which is very important because it is a symbol and it will also give you the 10% more damage when you hit enemies, and also it's one of your main damage dealer and it is not a projectile and it cannot be reflected. Then I swap to longbow. Notice the super huge range from the skill 5. I cast it and I trap some enemies. I also saw an interrupt right there. Let's see again. Yes, you see huge damage from the symbols, from the traps and from the skill 5. And also I throw my skill 2, which is the long range shot, which deals a lot of damage if it's not reflected or blocked. Let's see it again. It was not blocked. I did a huge damage there. You see how my damage went up from all this action right here. Like, I unleashed all my bursts in this clip. Traps, sword, symbol 2 from the scepter, skill 5 and skill 2, and also the skill 4. It was not blocked. You see a lot of damage. Then the berserkers surpassed me, but still they have the longbow, which makes them a lot of damage in the arc DPS, but in reality they don't down a lot of enemies with the longbow. The insane thing is the F1 from the greatsword on the berserkers. This is another clip I want to comment with you, because I want to show you how important it is to place your traps properly. Most of the time the traps will be needed to be used when the enemies run into you, because it's very hard to cast them, and while aggressively, I mean, because you go into the enemies, you cast your traps and you will just move around, and most of the time if you engage alone you will die. If you engage with your zerg, the enemies will just move out from your bomb. So most of the time your traps should be cast when the enemies are running into you. Let's see it. You see enemies are coming, I cast my procession and also test of fate, and I do the damage with my traps. So this is very important to keep in mind with the Dragonhunter. If your squad is defensive, you will get a lot more of damage compared to an aggressive squad. Also keep in mind that your traps can be cast aggressively with your F2, because it is a leap in front of you, and also it will immobilize 5 enemies and then you can cast your traps. But this is very hard to do, especially with strong enemies. Like in this case the enemies were very coordinated and they did a lot of damage, and you will see that I try to cast my traps aggressively, like we are going onto them. You see how much health I lose to cast my traps without dodging. So I didn't even use my F2, because F2 would also kill me in this case, because I would have gone too far ahead and so I would die. Let's see it again. We drop on the enemies which are running, they are regrouping, they are ready to fight again. We walk into them. If I had used my F2 into them, I would be beyond my zerg, my ally zerg, and I would die. So it's not a very good idea to use them aggressively unless you are sure the fight is over and you are ready to win. Like here, even if I went down, the fight was over and I would rally and my allies would rally me. But still, be careful about it, please. This was the last clip I wanted to share and to cover with you together, to commentary. And in the near future, I will upload a video which is gameplay only for the Dragonhunter. So I will show you what to use in practice. Like now I covered the theory, I will show you the practice, and hopefully I will also learn from my mistakes, because I make a lot. It really helps me to see my gameplays, to learn what I do wrong, and so it should also help you. Thank you for watching. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my channel and my contents, and see you on to the next video. Bye!